Good evening, esteemed members of the Research Foundation of India, distinguished schedule expert Dr. Chanchala Jain ma'am, and honored participants. It is indeed a privilege to extend a warm and gracious welcome to you all on behalf of RFI as we convene for the sixth day of the Faculty Development Program and the Training Program on Advanced Tools and Techniques for Research Methodology. This important initiative is organized by Research Foundation of India and RFI-CARE in collaboration with BPIT and proudly sponsored by Eklavya University, JHARF, Academic Research Guide Association, and Edu Academic Inc. Once again, I am privileged to welcome our esteemed session expert, Dr. Chanchala Jain ma'am, Assistant Professor at Prestige Institute of Management and Research in Indore. Many of you are already acquainted with her from her enriching session on the application of Excel for data analysis. We are truly fortunate to benefit from her expertise again today. So, without further delay, I humbly request Dr. Chanchala Jain ma'am to commence today's session on hypothesis development and testing. Thank you. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Neha ma'am. I hope I'm audible clearly.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, good evening. Hypothesis is a tentative statement.
It is yeah, ma'am. Good evening. So, hypothesis could be understood as a proposed or a possible, thought or explanation of something. For example, if I say this will happen, or the next month it will rain. So, what is the possibility of it? It might rain, it might not rain. So, it could be understood as a basic understanding of hypothesis. Yes, ma'am. Now visible.
burnout lead to low productivity? So I think if many of us are working, so I think we have experienced this thing that when we are in the stress, generally it impacts our productivity, right? So maybe this can be our observation, and that way we can raise a question that does burnout lead to the productivity or to the low productivity, right? Second question is from the marketing field, which says whether sales is affected by the whether sales is affected by the customer satisfaction. That means if customers are not satisfied, it is quite obvious that the sales of company will be affected. Or if they are satisfied, still we can say that the sales will be affected, right? So this can be one of the observation or maybe the experience. The marketing person can raise such kind of questions. Next question is from the field of finance, which says what parameters should be taken care while investing in the stock market. So I think if we are investing in the stock market, so generally we need to take certain what I can say we need to think around the certain parameters while investing or before investing in the stock. So we, according to whatever is our requirement, what type of investment we want to do in the stock market, so you need to decide upon certain parameters and then you are investing. So if you are from the finance field, so maybe this can be your question, that what are the parameters which are we need to consider while investing in the stock market, right? Next question I tried to uh, list down from the economics field, which says, does GDP impact growth of country? So I think it is very obvious. We know this thing that growth of company or GDP and the growth of country is having the positive kind of relationship, right? So we are raising a question that does GDP impact growth of country, right? Next two questions are from the marketing field. Are loyalty and satisfaction have any relationship? So I think a marketing person can experience this thing if a person is loyal to the company. So it means a person is satisfied from the product of a company. So it is quite obvious that person will be loyal to the company's product, right? Next, whether brand recognition impacts the sales of the brand. So I think we know usually there are so many advertisements placed on the social media and on the TVs or on television, right? When we are looking at the different soap operas or maybe movies, etc. So we are observing the ads. So it is nothing but it is a way of making the customers aware about the products, or maybe they would be able to recognize the brand, right? So this way, if the person or the customer is able to recognize the brand properly, this can impact the sales of the particular brand. So this can be the one of the question which can be the part of marketing fee. Last is from the finance, which says, does weather impact the stock market, right? So these are the certain number of questions which you can observe around you, and using your observation, you can write down the questions in your own words, right? And then further, after taking the help of literature, because whenever you are writing the questions, always you need to back your questions with the help of literature. Meaning is that in the every research question, there will be the variables, right? Say, for example, if I will ask the first question, does burnout lead to the low productivity? So can any one of you tell me which are the variables available in the first question? Anyone?
First is productivity level. The other sorry, burnout, and then comes the productivity.
Very good. Sir has said very correctly, there are two variables, burnout and the productivity, right? So when I'm saying, does burnout lead to low productivity, that means whether the burnout is impacting the productivity of a person. So always your research question should be in a form, in that way you can easily understand which are the variables you have kept in your question. Because using these variables, you will write your objectives, and using those objectives, you will formulate your hypothesis, right? Further, there are various approaches to develop the hypothesis, right? So I tried to find out two approaches which are generally used by us. The very first one is the inductive approach. Inductive approach starts from, this is the, what I can say, bottom up approach, right? Meaning is very simple. You can see the arrow sign. That means this particular approach starts from the lower side, that is the confirmation, then observation, then hypothesis, and then theory. Meaning is that from the environment, right, we are observing and confirming the phenomena. Whatever means, suppose so I'm experiencing something, so means I'm confirming first, then I will observe that thing in the environment, and then using that I will formulate my hypothesis. And once you will test your hypothesis, and suppose that hypothesis is tested properly and it is proved also, in that case it can help you to formulate the theory. So this is bottom to up approach. We are starting from the scratch, and that way we will be able to formulate a particular theory, right? So we can say, I think we all have heard about a very famous example about the Newton's law, where the Newton has observed that he was sitting under a tree. He has observed this thing, that our apple was falling on a floor. So that way we can say, this is the, what I can say, way of proposing the theory, and that way he has reached to the theory of the gravitation, right? So this is an inductive approach. Firstly, you are confirming, observing the thing around you, then you are formulating the hypothesis. Once your hypothesis is formulated, you are testing it, and when it is tested successfully, it is becoming the theory for us, right? Second approach is the deductive approach, which is the very opposite to the inductive one. Here what we will do, we will take a base of the theory, right? With the help of the theory, we will formulate the hypothesis. Then we will observe that whatever hypothesis we have formulated, whether the something type of that is available there in the environment or not, and then we will confirm it. So that is the deductive approach. For example, if suppose I am saying happiness is leading to the better mindset, suppose. So maybe suppose this is a kind of theory. I need to see this thing, whether the happiness is impacting the mindset of a people or not. So that way you can formulate your hypothesis. Then you will observe the similar thing around your environment, or across your environment. You will collect the data, and then you will confirm the hypothesis. So this is the deductive approach, which is the top to bottom approach. Further, I tried to take one image. I tried to take one image here, which is based on the technology acceptance model. Here, what I want to tell you, this is the particular model which was proposed very previously, right? So in this model, you can find where there are various variables available, right? The variables are like perceived ease of use, perceived usefulness, intention to use, and then actual use, right? So if I want to see how I can formulate the hypothesis, so maybe I can say perceived ease of use leads to the perceived usefulness, right? Or I can say perceived usefulness leads to intention to use. Likewise, perceived ease of use leads to intention to use, and intention to use leads to actual use, right? So friends, this way, this is nothing but these are the observations from the environment. Using your observation skills, we can scan the environment, we can try to identify the variables, and then looking in the literature, we can try to find out which variable is impacting which variable, and that way we can formulate our model. This was the very initial model of the TEM. Further, more researchers have worked on this TEM model, and then after that the new TEM model came in the picture. And then you can see here we are having perceived usefulness, perceived ease of use. Here the intention, that is behavioral intention, is there, and the usage behavior is there. But you can find there are so many other variables was introduced to measure perceived usefulness, and that way we have reached to this particular last construct of this particular model, that is the usage behavior. So this is all means whatever you can see in this particular model, this is nothing but this is from the experience. You can understand that which thing can be impact to the which thing. Then always you need to take a back support of the literature. Means suppose I'm saying image of a particular brand is impacting the perceived usefulness, right, or the job relevance or the output quality is leading to the perceived usefulness. So whatever I am using as a variable here, I need to always see these things, whether these things are available somewhere in the literature or not. Or if you are introducing those type of things, this will be becoming the new model from your side, right? So that way, this is one of the way of making or formulating the model, and this way, whatever are the linking and the arrows, this will help you to formulate your hypothesis. There is one more concept available. There is one more concept available in the research, named as there is a model called circle model. Circle model means service quality model. I think we all are the consumers of service, right? Daily
Nikita ma'am. Nikita ma'am. Nikita ma'am.
So thank you, ma'am.
Nikita ma'am, please mute yourself.
Okay, so I'm starting again. I said I have just discussed with you one model, that is the TAM model, technology acceptance model. Now I'm talking about the second model, which is the circle model. Circle model stands for service quality model. So as I said, we all are the consumers of services, right? On the daily basis, we are consuming so many services. But we need to know this thing, that we can assess the quality of the services. So there were the person named as Parsudaman and his colleagues developed a scale named as circle scale, and they have given 5 dimensions to the service quality, named as tangibles, reliability, availability, assurance, and empathy. So this way, as we know, service quality is a kind of qualitative phenomena. So we cannot directly measure service quality. So what we need to do, we need to take the help of certain items, that is question. So we can say service quality or services are intangible in nature. So how a person can tangibilize them, right? Then service quality should be, whatever services we are taking, they should be reliable, they should be available. We need to get the assurance from the provider, and there should be empathy. Means if I am feeling or facing some problem, my vendor of the service should also understand my problem. So that way, these are the 5 dimensions proposed by the Parsudaman and his colleagues for service quality. So this is a way of telling you, everyone, those who are here in the particular meeting, I want to just tell you this thing, that when I talk about the hypothesis development, always you need to have the scale. I think questionnaire development has already conducted in one of the sessions. So scale is nothing but it's your questionnaire, right? If you are very, very clear about your variables, using those variables, you can create your questionnaire. Using the questionnaire, you can collect the data, because once you are clear about the variables, you would be able to formulate your hypothesis, right? And your questionnaire can help you to collect the data, and that this is a way of testing or your hypothesis, because data can help you to test your hypothesis, right? So now I'll talk about the process of the hypothesis development. So it starts from a question, right? Suppose, do students who attend more lectures get better exam results? As I am academician, suppose I'm asking this question, that is, my students, those who are attending or those who are more interactive in my class, they are able to perform better in the examination. Suppose this is a question, right? So for this particular question, I need to do a preliminary research. Preliminary research meaning is very simple. I need to refer the theories, which is some way communicating such kind of things which I want to test, right? That way I can say I can take the help of the previous literature. Using the literature, I can confirm this thing, whatever I am proposing, whatever I want to test, something is already available in the literature or not, right? Using the theories, I can create my conceptual framework. And then there is a term called operationalization. Meaning is that whatever variables I will identify, as you can see, the next step is the identification of the variable. So whatever variables you are identifying from the questions, you need to always try to see this thing, that how you can measure such type of variables. As I said, service quality. So we know this thing. I think in the first session of mine, I have already said there are certain constructs or variables which we cannot directly measure, right? So suppose if I say burnout, or it is the highest form of the stress. So we cannot measure such kind of things, but we can only feel them, right? So if in the research I want to measure such kind of variables, how I will measure them? So I need to operationalize my variables. I need to give the proper definition that how I'm going to measure them, right? So as I said, do students who attend more lectures. So I need to define means how many or how many hours a student is attending a lecture. That way, this is the definition of the number of lectures. Or student who attend more lectures, meaning is number of lectures attended by a particular student. Then perform or get better exam results. So I need to see that better exam results, meaning is very simple. I will collect the scores of those students, right? So that way, whatever variables you are talking about in your research questions or in your objectives, you need to always try to see this thing that how you can measure them. That is a very important part of hypothesis development. After that, after your conceptual framework formulation, after your understanding what is your IV, what is your DV, then you will formulate your initial hypothesis, right? After formulating of your initial hypothesis, you need to refine always your hypothesis. How you will refine your hypothesis? Firstly, you will see variables which you have taken are relevant or not, right? Whatever specific group you are taking for studying, whether you can study that type of group or not, you need to see the predicted outcome of the experiment or analysis. Means whatever or what will be the outcome of your hypothesis, whether it is in terms of the society or not, whether it is contributing something to the particular field in which you are conducting the research or. Then does your hypothesis include both the variables, that is independent and dependent? So I need to tell you this thing. For formulating the hypothesis, always, generally, always two variables are required. First is independent, second is the dependent variable. So you always need to identify the variables before formulating the hypothesis. Then can you manipulate your variables without hampering the ethical standards? It is very important from the point of view of the ethics, right? In every field, there are certain ethics. Similarly, in the research also, because research outcomes are generally used in the particular field. If you are doing a research in a marketing field or in a finance or in HR, your results can be used by the particular stakeholders of that particular field, right? So you need to see this thing, how much you can manipulate a variable, and it should not impact the ethical standards of that particular field. So you need to firstly understand in which field you are working, what are the ethics in that particular field, how much manipulation you can do. Generally it happens, means I want to just share experience with all of you. Generally it happens, what people do, they generally do one thing to meet. Means suppose I want to reject my null hypothesis, suppose, right? And suppose your data is supporting your null hypothesis, means your data is telling you need to accept your null hypothesis. What people does, they generally change the results, right? So this is not correct. This is against the ethical standards. You always need to see this thing. Whatever things you are making in your research, it should be this, whatever you are receiving or getting, always same outcomes you need to propose further. And you need to find the answer for that. Means suppose your hypothesis is accepted, null hypothesis, right? So you need to find the answer that why this hypothesis is accepted. Whether the sample you have taken, in that sample there is some problem, or in that particular reason such kind of things are happening. So you need to get these answers firstly, and that way you need to support your findings, right? Next is, can you manipulate your next is, does your research predict the relationship and outcome? It is very important from the point of view of the research. Means there should be always a link between the relationship between the variables and its outcome. Then is your research simple and concise? I think it is very, very simple thing. I do not need to explain you this thing. Always you need to write your research topic and hypothesis both in the simple words, so that it can be easily understood by the person or the readers of your research, right? Is it clear with no ambiguity or assumptions about the reader's knowledge? Always your hypothesis should be what I can say. It should not be telling or means it. We should not interpret the double meaning from the hypothesis, right? It should be in a coming, or it should be in a one meaning only. Your hypothesis should be like, I can only interpret it in a one form only. It should not be like I can take the two meanings from the one hypothesis, right? Then is your research observable and testable results? So it is very important. Whatever hypothesis you are formulating, it should be observed and it should be tested also, right? Without observed things, you cannot collect the proper data, because once you are observing, that means something is going on in the environment. That way you are collecting the data, and only that way you can test it. Lastly, it is relevant and specific to the research questions and problems. So I think this is I already explained. Further, I tried to identify few of the research questions. Then I think you can see here what I am telling you. Here you can find, suppose the question is, what are the health benefits of eating an apple a day, right? So hypothesis can be, increasing apple consumption in over 60s will result in decreasing the frequency of doctor's visit, right? And when I want to convert this hypothesis in the research form, in the null hypothesis form, I can say increasing apple consumption in over 60s will have no effect on the frequency of doctor's visit, right? So friends, you can take a pic of this particular slide if you want. That way you need to always have certain questions. Then broadly you will write your hypothesis. Then in context to your literature, you will formulate your null and alternative hypothesis, right? Moving ahead, I have taken few of the examples from the few fields. First is the marketing strategy. You can see the situation is, a company wants to know if changing the design of its website will increase customer engagement. Hypothesis can be, changing the website design will increase the average time spent by users on the website. Your null hypothesis can be, changing the website design will have no effect on the average time spent by users, right? So from the situation you can find Situation is a company wants to know if changing the design of its website will increase the customer engagement. That means changing of the design of the website can be your one variable. Increase customer engagement can be your second variable. Using these two variables, we have proposed the hypothesis that changing the website design will increase the average time spent by the users on the site or on the website. So this is the directional, because I'm saying it is increasing the average time spent by the users on the website, right? In the null hypothesis, I'm saying changing the website design will have no effect on the average time spent on the users. That means these two variables are not related to each other, right? And alternatively, I'm saying that changing the website design will increase the average time spent by the users. That means directionally, I'm saying this thing. Once if I'll change the website of the design of the website, that means the average time spent by the users will definitely increase, right? So I'll collect the data on both the variables. I'll test the hypothesis, and after testing the hypothesis, whatever are the results come, whether they are supporting the null and alternative, same I will propose, right? Next question from the education field or situation, which is I have taken from the education field, which says impact of teaching methods. I think it is a very well known situation. Generally, a situation can be a school wants to determine whether using a new interactive learning app will improve students' maths scores, right? So hypothesis can be students using the interactive app will have higher math scores compared to those who use traditional satisfaction in terms of previous researches, those persons who have already done a study in the satisfaction on the customer satisfaction construct. So what they have found, what they have said. So using that, these authors have quoted about the customer satisfaction. Further, talking about the marketing mix, as sir has already said, these are the four different things, that is product, price, place, and promotion, right? So you can find, firstly, the previous researchers, those who have talked about marketing mix, here we can find their work, right? Then talking about the first mix, which is product. So this particular para is talking about the product of the product, means the, what I can say, product attribute of a particular thing. Then price of the price, sorry, second mix is the price. So here we are talking about the price in terms of the previous studies. Then promotion means various channels to promote a thing. Then lastly, the location, right? And then you can see our research framework was proposed here, in which you can find, this is the customer satisfaction, this is your dependent variable, which is impacted by the product attributes, price, promotion, and the location, that is availability of the product, right? So this is what the model is. Using this model, using this framework, you can find these were the 5 hypotheses proposed by the researchers. The first one says products have the positive and significant effect on customer satisfaction at whatever place was mentioned in the title. Further, you can write this, right? Second says price has a positive and significant effect on customer satisfaction. Third says promotion has a positive and significant effect on customer satisfaction. Fourth, location has positive and significant effect on customer satisfaction. So this was the first 4, in which we can find all the marketing mix. Individually, we have taken all the marketing mix and we have tried to see the effect on the customer satisfaction. In the 5th, collectively, we want to see product, price, promotion, and location simultaneously affecting the customer satisfaction. So I hope you have got an understanding that how you can create your research framework and how you can write your hypothesis. May I proceed with the next?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am, absolutely.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Yeah.
You can.
Yeah. So taking the second one. Now you can see title says literature review of customer satisfaction, determination, and level of complaint, product quality and service quality, right? So here this particular title or this particular study is about only collecting the literature review for customer satisfaction determination, means how we can determine the customer satisfaction, and the level of complaint, right? In context to the product quality and the service quality. Going down, you can see problem formulation is, does product quality affect customer satisfaction? I think from the title you can guess this particular question. This says that product quality has effect on the customer satisfaction. Next question says, does quality of service affect customer satisfaction? Third says, does product quality affect complaint level? Fourth says, does the quality of service affect the level of complaints? And lastly, does customer satisfaction affect complaint levels, right? So using your title, you can formulate your problems. This is the problem or this is your research questions, right? Further, here you can find literature reviews also in context to the same variables which we are talking in the research questions. You can find firstly the customer satisfaction, then complaint level, product quality, quality of service, etc. And then this is the summary table where we are talking about previous researchers or authors, what were their results, and then security with the articles, and then differentiate with the articles, means how your study is differing from this particular study. So that way you can propose such kind of tables in your research papers. Talking about, I think further I will not go. Yeah, conceptual framework I will talk about. Using your research problem, you can see how these authors have formulated their research framework. As we have seen, there were four variables: product quality, quality of service or service quality, customer satisfaction, and complaint level. So product quality leads to customer satisfaction, product quality leads to complaint level, service quality leads to complaint level, service quality leads to customer satisfaction. That way you can find these are the four hypotheses: H1, H2, H3, and H4, and finally customer satisfaction leads to complaint level. Fine.
Yes, ma'am.
Now I'll move to the next problem now. I hope it's visible.
Yes, ma'am.
You can find here factors affecting customer satisfaction and customer loyalty. The case of Bing Duan ceramic product. So here we are talking about what are the factors which are affecting the customer satisfaction and customer loyalty. In this, you can find further. Yes. Firstly, here I will talk about the objectives. Three objectives were taken by the authors to state out the relationship among the customer satisfaction, customer loyalty, product loyalty, service loyalty, brand awareness, and prices in the ceramic product extent. Next, to measure the relationship between customer satisfaction and customer loyalty. And next is to bring out the solutions and recommendations for the Bing Duang ceramics makers and the seller and domestic manufacturers to gain back competitive advantages on ceramic market. So I think this is a concept theoretical objective, but first two we can measure, right? So you can find further literature reviews also in the same things, means you need to identify your variables, and using your variables, now you can see I have highlighted a paragraph. I'm expecting you to read this paragraph. Okay, may I read, or I think you are reading the highlighted paragraph?
We are reading, ma'am.
Okay,
We are reading, ma'am.
okay, fine.
Done, ma'am.
Done. So here the purpose is what you can see when I talk about the customer satisfaction. Then you talk about the improvement of customer satisfaction, because here three problems were mentioned when I talk about customer satisfaction. Problems were, if customers are dissatisfied, they discontinue purchasing of the goods and services, they complain to the company or to the third party, and perhaps return the item, and lastly engage in the negative word of mouth communication, right? So that way we have tried using, means these were the, what I can say, findings proposed by Hoare and the Mackins in the 2001. Using this particular findings, these researchers have formulated their own paragraph, and then they talked about that what are the main things they need to keep in their mind when they are talking about the customer satisfaction, right? So now you can see the model proposed by them. This model says you can find there are 6 variables: product quality, service quality, price, situational factors, customer satisfaction, and the personal factors. So the main construct is the customer satisfaction, which is impacted by quality, that is product and the service quality, and the price. These all three are leading satisfaction. Apart from that, situational factors are also leading the customer satisfaction, and the personal factors also leading the customer satisfaction, right? So that way, using these things, I need to check. I think I have taken hypothesis also here. Yeah. You can see further in this particular study, further subdivisions were made for more variables insertion. Like you can find here the different variables I am showing you, brand awareness, etc. Using that, this is the broad model which we have taken. Then further it was taken that how service quality can be measured. So I think I told you Persuroman model, which is generally considering tangibility or reliability, responsiveness, assurance, and empathy. So using this, service quality can be measured. Brand awareness can be measured using the brand recognition and brand recall. Customer loyalty can be measured in terms of pre-purchase intention and word of mouth, right? So friends, ultimate purpose of showing you these various researches is very simple. If in which whatever field you are writing your research and you want to write your hypothesis, right? So always your hypothesis should be supported by the literature. This is the main purpose. That is why I have shown you these all researches. So you always need to do whatever is coming in your mind, or whatever type of literature you are reading, and then whatever type of topic you are deciding, right? In that, carefully identify your variables. Try to find the literature review for individual variables. After that, if you want to link one variable with the other variable, suppose A and B, there are two variables, you want to find some relationship between them, you want to see the impact of one variable on other variable likewise. So you always need to see that in literature whether such kind of relationship has been found by the previous researchers or not. Because purpose is why I'm saying this, because if suppose you are saying customers, suppose if I talk about this particular problem, suppose I'm saying the service quality is not impacting the customer satisfaction, right? And if suppose your results are not supporting your this hypothesis, so you will say service quality is impacting customer satisfaction, right? This is what you said. But you will need to support your finding with the finding of the previous researches, right? So for me, this is known as the discussion part in your research, right? So you always need to discuss how many of these studies are supporting your finding, whether some of the researches or findings are contradictory to your finding, or some of the researches or results are supporting your results. So this is very important if you are using previous literature or reviews, if you are using them. So that way you would be in a position to discuss your results in the light of the results of the other studies, right? So this way it is very important part, right? So I will not discuss the last paper because now I need to cover the hypothesis testing also, right? So once I talk about the hypothesis testing, I need to talk about the two types of tests generally available in statistics: parametric and non-parametric tests, right? So parametric test meaning is the tests which are based on the parameters of population, which are generally using those tests tests which are generally considering the normal distribution of the population. Such kind of tests are generally considered as the parametric tests. When you are not bothering about the normal distribution of the data, or when you are dealing with the categorical data kind of things, in that case you are using the parametric test, right? So suppose I'm coming here, yeah. Suppose this is your hypothesis. Products have a positive and significant effect on the customer satisfaction. So I think it is very clear to us there are two variables available: product and the customer satisfaction, right? I want to see the impact of this on this. So I need to see product means product attributes. I need to see what is the perception of the people about the product attributes, right? And that way I will collect the data for the products. Then I will collect the data about the product attributes, satisfaction of the customers about the product attributes. And that way these two data or these two variable data I collect and I will test this hypothesis, right? So in this hypothesis, if you are talking about the parametric test, suppose you want to apply here the regression. Generally regression we are using to see the impact of one variable or on other variable. Or if you want to see the relationship kind of thing, so you will go for the correlation, right? So in such kind of tests, generally we are testing the normality of the data. So in that case, whatever variable is your dependent variable, you need to test whether that variable is normally distributed or not. And in the statistics, there are various things available, various parameters available. Using that, you can check the normality of the data. Generally, skewness and kurtosis are the two parameters. I think I also discussed during the Excel. So using that, you can test using check that think that your variable is normally distributed or not. So here you will be worried about customer satisfaction. Generally, this will be your dependent variable. So you need to check your customer satisfaction is normally distributed or not, right? Similarly, if you're talking about the non-parametric test, in non-parametric test category, generally we are keeping the chi-square test, Mann-Whitney U test, we are keeping the Kruspe-Wallis test, then we are having the Spearman's rank correlation. So there are multiple tests available. Wilcoxon rank test is also there. So there are multiple tests available in this category. But usually when your data is not following the normality, then you are switching from parametric test to the non-parametric test, or when you are having the categorical data, in that case you are applying the non-parametric test, right? So I think this is little what I can say very extensive thing when I talk about the types of tests. But I think in the FDP, you people are getting the idea that how you can apply these various kind of tests. So I'll conclude the session on this note that once you are talking about the research, always you need to very clearly define your research topic. Your research topic can be your own idea, or you can get an idea from the observation, or by scanning your environment, or from the literature review, right? Then after talking about whatever title you are taking, you need to identify your keywords in the title, and then you need to discuss those keywords in your literature review. Then you will proceed further. You will formulate your hypothesis using your keywords, that is your variables. Then with the help of your research question and objectives, you will formulate your hypothesis. And then there will be the turn of the data analysis. For that, you need to formulate or maybe create your questionnaire. It can be already existing skill, means already existing questionnaire you can take. As I said, Seroquel, which is already a established skill, right? Similarly, there are some variables like motivation or personality. So for such kind of variables or stress, so many different skills are available. So using that, you can collect the data, and then using appropriate statistical tests, you can test your hypothesis. If your data is supporting your hypothesis, generally null hypothesis is tested. So if your data is supporting your null hypothesis, you will propose the same results, right? If your data is not supporting your hypothesis, you will propose the alternative hypothesis, right? So I think this is the crux of this session. Now I'm extending my thanks to everyone for patiently and attentively listening to me. Now the platform is open for question and answers. If you are having any, please ask. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am, audible.
Participants, if you have any queries, please go ahead.
Ma'am, there is one question. If we have studied, we have two dependent variables and one independent variable for each.
So, Rali ma'am, are you saying something to me? I think I cannot hear you properly. You're not audible to me.
Yeah, I am not.
Can anyone help me to understand what Sonali ma'am is saying to me?
I think she is saying about the dependent and independent variables. I think
Hello,
so.
ma'am, I am audible.
Yeah, I can hear
Yeah.
you now.
Ma'am, I want to ask a question. The question is that if in our study we have two dependent variable and one independent variable, so which test can be applied here?
How many variable, ma'am?
Ma'am, two dependent variable and one independent variable.
Ma'am, firstly, you need to tell me what is your objective. It is not like they are having 2 or 3 independent variable. It is always like what is your objective? What you want to find, that is the important thing. I hope I'm clear, Sonali ma'am. You need to tell me your objective first. Hello? Am I audible, Sonali ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, if we want to, my objective is that to identify the effect of remote collaboration tool on customer employee satisfaction and well-being.
Okay. So, ma'am, which variable you are taking here independent? Which variable you are taking here dependent?
Ma'am, remote collaboration tool is independent.
Okay,
And
everyone who are dependent. Yes.
yes, ma'am. Yes.
So, ma'am, generally when we are having multiple dependent variable, we'll go for MANOVA.
Okay, ma'am. Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Anything else? Any other question, friends? No more questions?
No, ma'am.
Hi, sir.
It's too clear.
Sorry?
It's very much clear, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much, sir. So I think if no question, I think I can request Neha ma'am, and if you can switch on your camera so I can capture you people. Okay. I can see Sonali ma'am. Hi Sonali ma'am. I think we met previously, Sonali ma'am. I cannot hear you. You are muted, ma'am. You need to unmute yourself.
Ma'am, when you take SPSS session, so we meet on that.
Okay, because once you have switched on your camera, so I thought I have seen you somewhere.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you, Supreet ma'am. No, it's Subreet Kaur ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. I think it's Vijay
Supreet.
sir. Yeah. So thank you for switching on your camera so that I have seen to whom I was interacting since last 1 hour. Thank you. So over to you, Neha. Thank you. Over to you, Neha ma'am. I think I'm done for the session.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. So, as we conclude today's session, I extend my deepest gratitude to all participants for their contribution. A special and heartfelt acknowledgement is due to our distinguished expert, Dr. Chansala Jain, ma'am, for sharing her invaluable insights. I would also like to express sincere thanks to the organizing committee and its sponsors for their unwavering support. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Neha ma'am, for being there throughout the session. And please convey my thanks and gratitude to Ajay Jain sir and Saurabh Jain sir as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.